The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to the Metro MLS webinar reviewing ad change in FlexMLS. My name is Angela. I'll be your trainer today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over all of the options that are under the ad change section in the menu of FlexMLS. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping things. The way that I'm going to run this webinar is that I'll cover a section, and then at the end of the section, I'll open the floor to questions. In your go-to webinar control panel, there should be on your side like a little hand button or indicator there. If you have a question, click on that. That lets me know someone has a question, and then I will open the floor. You have either questions or a chat panel. That's where you would type in your information there. So I think it's chat for me on my side because I can't type in my questions one. But I'm going to go ahead and just type a message in there. And if you see the message, just respond. Hang on. All right, so I just typed a question. If you see the question, go ahead and answer if you could. Actually, I see a question that I just scrolled up there. Oh, I see a question. Will there be an on-demand webinar version of this emailed out after the webinar is over? Yes, I am recording this webinar. So once it's over and it's loaded, it's been queued up, I'll email it. Usually they send me a notification of roughly about 8 hours. So if I don't send it to you today, I'll definitely email it to you tomorrow. Okay. So I see there is, let's look at my attendees there. I see that there is 3 of you. So did you see the question that I typed into the control panel there? I'll type it again. Oh, there you go. There you go. So just respond with if you. Okay, there. Thank you very much. You got Aaron. Yep. Awesome. Now, there is also, I sent a handout to you guys. It's actually a video. I'm going to play the video, but audio through GoToWebinar, when you play a video on the host computer screen, is not the greatest. So I did test it a little bit earlier with my own computer, and I found that I had to turn up the audio on my speakers really loud in order to hear it. So I'm going to play the video during the webinar. I also sent you guys a copy of the video. If you look in your handout section of your GoToWebinar policy, you should see a link that's labeled Intro to Listing Policy Final MP4 video file. So if you click on that file, it will open up and it will play the video for you later. You can't download the file, unfortunately. So if you ever wanted to come back to the file to refresh yourself or just to clear up some information that you needed, we do have it loaded on our site. So if you go to our home site, www.metromls.com, hover your mouse over member support, and then click on FlexMLS webinars. The video is right here, Introduction to Listing Policy. This is a PowerPoint video that was created by our Director of Membership that includes information on listing policy, rules, regulations, the basic stuff that you guys need to know that we typically don't know down here in the training department. That's another department. Also, if you notice, these are also webinars of assorted functions in the system. So you can always come through here and review any of these webinars, and that's the runtime that you see there that we've got there. So if you go to the bottom, there's another page. And we're always adding to this, and there's some things that will need to be, well, these are pretty updated. The shorter videos in the video library, I still have to work on updating those. But these are here. It's open 24/7 for you training. You can play them, pause them, replay them at any time. All right? All right, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to minimize my screen. You may want to turn up the your speakers or the audio on your headphones that you're using, because the video, when it plays to you guys, is kind of quiet. If you can't hear it, don't worry about it. Again, I sent you a copy of the video, so after we're done, you can always review it. Or again, like I said before, under member support, FlexMLS webinars, this is the video right here. Introduction to listing policy. You can always come here and review it. It's roughly a little bit over 10 minutes, 10 and a half minutes. So I'm going to minimize my screen here. So this will review all the rules and policies. Once this video, this PowerPoint video is over, then we're going to go into the add change portion within FlexMLS. So here we go.
Welcome to the Metro MLS tutorial, Introduction to Listing Policy. This short tutorial will briefly cover the requirements for entering a new listing into FlexMLS. Data accuracy is very important to us. Every listing entered into the system is reviewed by Metro MLS staff to ensure that the data that is available through the system is as accurate as possible. Currently on your screen is a list of the items our data integrity team reviews on every listing. Listings are required to be entered into the system within 48 hours from the term of the contract, with federal holidays being excluded from that 48-hour period. Make sure that the date listed under term of contract is what is being used as the listing date. Even though a seller may have signed the contract prior to the term of the contract itself does not go into effect until the term of contract is reached. When entering your listing in FlexMLS, make sure that the listing and expiration dates listed under the term of the contract on your listing agreement match the information that is entered on the main fields tab for listing and expiration date. For a listing to be considered active in the system, it must meet two main criteria. First is that the listing offers compensation to a selling broker. This commission offering can be displayed as either a percentage of the sale price or as a specific dollar amount. The second criteria is that the listing can be shown in a cooperative manner. This means that if a property cannot be shown for more than a 48-hour period, the listing cannot be in active status. Remember, the expectation is that all properties listed as active are available to be shown. If a property will not be available for showings immediately from the term of the contract, we encourage members to enter the listing in as a delayed listing. This status allows the listing to be withheld from all showings for a maximum of 15 days. However, a shorter period may be selected as necessary. Days on market begin only once the listing has gone to active status and is searchable by agents while it is in the delayed status. Delayed listings can be manually emailed to customers and will also appear in the contacts portal if the portal has been enabled. However, these listings will not go out via subscription emails or to third-party websites until the listing reaches active status. During the listing period, agents may advertise the property like normal, but are not allowed to have showings during the time period. No showings means no brokers opens, no agent previews, and no members of the public viewing that property. The delayed listing status is meant to be utilized in order to prepare the property for sale. If you are entering your listing in as delayed, please change the status from active to delayed on the main fields tab. Once the status has been changed, a start showing date calendar will appear. Select the date that showings are to begin before proceeding. It is also important to note that a listing that is to be delayed must start off as delayed listing status. Once a listing goes active, it is not able to be returned to the delayed status. If your listing is under the 15-day max period and you need to increase the days, please contact the staff at Metro MLS to make that adjustment for you. Agents and offices, however, can make the listing go active earlier than the advertised start showing date themselves as necessary. Violation of the no showing policy will result in a sanction of $200 per day for the first time offense. So if the agent is found to have shown the property while the listing was in delayed status on day 10, the total sanction for that violation would result in a sanction of $2,000. If an agent violates the policy a second time in a 2-year period, the fine doubles to $400 a day, which would result in a sanction of $4,000 in this example. If the agent violates the policy a third time in a 2-year period, the agent loses their MLS privileges for 30 days. If the agent does it a fourth time in a 2-year period, the entire office gets shut off for 30 days. And if the agent is still in the business and does it a fifth time in a 2-year period, they lose their MLS privileges for 6 months. So in review, while a listing is in delayed status, do not show the property to anyone, including brokers opens, agent previews, and members of the public. Within 48 hours from the start term, agents are required to upload all pages of the listing agreement that contains fillable information. For a single-family listing contract, that would be the first, third, and last page. Within 7 days from the start term of the contract, at least one photo of the property must be uploaded. Please note that photos cannot contain real estate signs, wording, logos, or watermarks. Images containing those items will be photoshopped to remove the unallowed items. In addition, FlexMLS members have the option to upload an unlimited number of photos for their listings to allow for agents to highlight special features. Keep in mind, however, that only the first 25 photos are shared to third-party websites, and from there, each site determines how many of those will be displayed. Therefore, it is important to properly order your photos when they are uploaded to ensure specific features are highlighted across all platforms. Keep in mind, once a listing goes active in the system, it will be sent out to third-party websites as well as through subscription emails. We hear from agents voicing their frustrations over listings that do not have at least one photo attached and therefore are not being viewed by customers. If you are waiting for photos to be taken, it would be recommended as a best practice to take and upload a placeholder photo until the photos you wish to use become available. So in review, within 48 hours of the term of the contract beginning, the listing must be uploaded to the system. Within 7 days of the term of the contract, the listing must contain at least one photo of the property. The listing will either go active through the expiration or selling date, or start off as delayed listing for a maximum of 15 days. Please note that advertising of any kind cannot begin until the term of the contract has begun. The taxing municipality on the address tab must reflect the tax by information as reflected in wire data. Sometimes an area may be serviced by multiple post offices, and therefore may be able to be listed under different postal municipalities. To see what options may exist for postal municipalities, visit www.usps.com, Quick Tools, and then look up a zip code. The example on the screen is for the zip code 53207. Since 53207 is serviced by both the Milwaukee and Bayview post offices, either may be selected for the postal municipality for that zip code. By entering the zip code on the address tab, the postal municipality drop-down on the main fields tab becomes enabled. For this example, we can choose either Milwaukee or Bayview for the postal municipality under location. When searching for municipalities in full search, the municipalities listed under the main tab refer to taxing municipalities only. To search for a postal municipality, please use the postal municipality option located under the address/school tab. When entering an address into FlexMLS, please use the address as displayed in wire data. For firehouse addresses, which feature both north, south, east, and or west coordinates, enter the address without spaces between the sections. In this example, the address would be entered as one piece, N123, W4567. If the property has multiple addresses, enter the first part under street number, and the second/additional addresses under unit number/additional addresses. For condos, please do not include the word unit or the pound sign. In this example, the address would be listed as 1234 Main Street, with street abbreviated as ST, then 5 under unit number/additional addresses. It is very important also to use the correct abbreviation for the street suffix as seen here. Listings that are taken with a variable rate commission must be disclosed using the yes or no option. Even if your company does not allow variable rate commission listings to be taken, it is still important to understand what they are. A variable rate commission is one in which the total percentage or amount of commission charge based upon who procures the buyer. In the example on the screen, if the seller agrees to pay X percent in commission if the listing company brings the buyer, and a different rate of Y percent if another company brings in the buyer, the listing would need to be checked yes for variable rate commission. This is necessary as it refers directly to the Realtor's Code of Ethics, Standard Practice 3-4. For additional information about variable rate commissions and the additional responsibilities associated with them, please review Standard Practice 3-4. When an offer offer has been accepted, the listing must be changed in the system within 48 hours to reflect the new status. If the listing has an offer but is continuing to be shown, please change the listing to active with offer. However, if the property is no longer available to be shown, the listing should be changed to pending status. However, if the accepted offer contains a bump clause with a home sale contingency, the listing may remain as active, since that is the only case in which a secondary offer can become primary without the primary offer falling apart. Agents and or their offices also have the opportunity to make changes to basic sold information for their listings for up to 10 days after closing. This means if an incorrect sales price or selling agent is entered, agents and or their offices have the ability to correct those issues for 10 days. If a correction needs to be made after that 10-day period has elapsed, please contact our Data Integrity Department to make that correction. For a complete list of policy and procedures, please visit www.metromls.com, resources, and then rules and procedures. If you have questions regarding these or any of the other procedures and policies for MetroMLS, please contact our Data Integrity Department by calling 414-778-5400 or via email admin@metromls.com. MetroMLS, we do more, better.
All right, so just to piggyback a little bit off of that video, there was a recent update to delayed listings. You guys may have received the flex tip that we sent out. So I'm just going to go here. I'm still on metromls.com. I'm going to go to news and flex tips. So now with the delayed listings, if you enter in a listing as delayed status, there's a form required to go along with that. So this is the flex tip on that. So it's called the seller's authorization to delay showings for multiple listing service. So your seller will need to sign this disclosure form. So you would upload the form along with the listing contract. So when you load your listing contract, it's the first, third, and last page. Then that if you're loading a delayed list, putting the listing in as delayed, you can download this form, have your seller complete it, and then upload it right after you load the listing contract, right along with the listing contract, kind of like the fourth page, if you will. Okay. If you have any questions on that or need some clarification, you can give our admin department a call at the 414-778-5450. All right. The form, we've got a link to it here in the flex tip. So this is the form. If you need to access it directly from our site, I'm just going to close this. So from metromls.com, you would just go to resources, forms and profile sheets, and then that's it right there. Seller's authorization to delay the showings. All right. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to switch tabs here to go over to our system tab here. So we're going to start with the add change, going to menu, and then underneath the add change section, we're going to start with add. So this is where you'd go to enter in a brand new listing. Now, when you're entering in the listing, you may think, well, what do I need? I don't know what information I need to, fill in for this listing. You probably know you need the basics like price, bids, BAS, whatever. So if you ever have a question about what data is needed to complete a listing, I'm just going to switch. Well, I don't have to switch. I'm going to hit the menu button here. So in menu, underneath forms, there's a profile sheet for each property type that you can enter into our system. So for example, let's say you're entering in a single family listing. When you click on the single family form, this will open up the profile sheet for that single family property. So what you see here, it's 2 pages. So if you print it out, you can print it out on regular letter size paper, but it is super hard to read. So if you decide to print it out, get a legal sheet of paper and print it out. So as you'll see here, we've got fields where you can enter in your office code, the listing agent's name. You can fill all of that in. And unfortunately, you can't fill in the PDF. That would make it so easy. Now, some of the offices run differently. Some of the bigger offices have listing admins. So the agents would fill this out and then turn this into a listing admin, and they would enter in all the information. And in other offices, the listing agent does everything for themselves. So we don't need these forms here. These forms are for you to use however your broker wants them used. But this is definitely a good guideline for you when you go out to your listing appointment, so you can fill in the information that you need for that property to enter it into FlexMLS. So there's the property address, the street name, these little shaded fields here. Anything that's shaded on these forms mean that's optional information. It's not required for entry on a listing. So if you've got the information and you'd like to fill it in, by all means, just jot it down there, but it's not needed. But things such as list price, taxes, tax years, acreage, all that good stuff, anything that is not shaded, it is required for entry on your listings. All right, so this is the first page here, and it's kind of like filling out an application. They're never really fun, but if you've got the information, it's not hard to do. All right, so there's fields down here to enter in directions to get to the property, showing information, public and private remarks. There is a character limit of 800 for public and private for 500. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember, but when we go into the system, it does give you a character count as you're entering in that information. If there's any inclusions or exclusions for the property, there's fields for that. Moving on is the second page here. So this is information about the rooms. So the level, L is the level, so that lets you know if that room is on the upper, main, or lower. So for living, great room, that's, the width by length. I think that's what that is, width by length, length by width. I can never remember the order. And then what level it's on. So you can just fill in the information for that. If there's any additional rooms, we've got fields here for that. So for example, if there's like a theater or a sunroom or whatever, you can pop that in there. Next are the details section. So as you're looking, each of these sections, that's the type, the details section with the information below it. So for this single family property, what type of single family property is it? So basically, you're just circling whatever applies. So if it's just regular old single family, you can just leave it blank. If it's in an association or a subdivision, you can circle whatever applies there. Now, as you can see, some of these headings don't have the R like this one does. Any heading, any section that has a heading with a little R in parentheses, that means that at least one detail from that section is required for entry on a listing. So type, nothing is required for type, although a lot of people do use that because things such as water frontage on lot or water access rights, or if it's a hobby farm or whatever, those are important things to know. They do get searched a lot, but it's not required for entry because every property type does not have whatever is located underneath there. But just know that the ones that have the R, at least one detail from that section is required for entry on your listings. So you just basically fill in this information on both sides, just like you were filling out an application, circle whatever details apply, and then you either, based upon how your broker runs the office, either turn this into a listing admin, or you sit down and you do it yourself. All right, so I'm just going to close this tab. So those forms are located underneath menu in the forms section. There's forms for each property type that we allow entry on. All right, so once you're here, you come in. The add listing screens are separated by tabs here. So we start off at the general tab. So if you're logged in as yourself, that'll be your name. Here for property type, you choose the property type that you'd like to enter, and you'll get fields and details that apply for that property type. So I'm just going to leave it as single family. So I'm going to go to the next tab, which is address. So I'm just going to left click on that. And you can also navigate through the tabs using these back and next buttons down here. So it does the same thing as going through the tabs. All right. So on the address tab, like the video reference, the property address that is listed on the tax record is what you need to enter in. So you put in the street number, and as you can see, some of these fields are shaded red and some are not. Anything that is shaded red, any field that is shaded red on any of these tabs, that information is required for entry on your listing in order for the system to generate a list number. Okay, so the street number would go here. If a street direction applies, you can choose that. If there's no street direction, you just leave that blank. Street name, you'd enter in the street name, and like they say, you enter in the address and then the abbreviation for that street, no punctuation. In case you forget that, there's a little information circle here that lets you know the correct procedures for entering in the addresses with the abbreviations if you ever forget. All right. If there's a unit number or additional address to this address, this property that you're entering in here, you can enter it in here. Next is the county. So all of the counties are listed here. If there is an area that you need to enter into the system that we do not have, for example, maybe your family owns property out of state somewhere. And you'd like to enter that property into our system, you are most definitely welcome to do that. We are not limited to the areas that you can enter into our system. They may not get searched, but if you are licensed in another state or if you own property yourself in another state, by all means, you can enter it into the system. For example, let's say it's in California. We don't have California in here. I do believe we do have an out-of-state option. Yeah, right there. So you would choose out-of-state, and then we can build in the tax and municipality for you. So that's what this means here. So after you choose your county, you enter in the taxing municipality for that address, not the mailing address, the taxing municipality. Sometimes those addresses do differ. You must enter the municipality that it is taxed by. So the drop-down menu will pop that in there. Next, we've got the state again, and as you can see, we've got other states that are in here. So we have had instances of agents entering in properties from areas that aren't close to us. Next is your zip code. That's where your 5-digit zip goes here. If you're not sure of what the zip code is or you need to confirm it, we've got a link here to USPS.com, which will take you to the zip code finder. So look up a zip code by address, city, states, cities by zip codes right here. So you can just find the address in there and it'll give you the zip +4. The +4 goes in this box right here. And then next is the tax key number. You would enter in the tax key number on this screen. So this is our first tab that you would complete, would be the address tab. Again, fields shaded red are required for entry. Fields that are not shaded red are optional. I'm checking to see if we have any questions at this time. I'm opening it up. All right, awesome. We'll move on to our next tab. Just moving some little screens here that are in my way. So the next tab, and it's going to generate a map because I don't have an address in there because it can't find anything. So when you click next, basically the process is that the system is looking to map that listing for you. If it doesn't recognize the address, you'll get a pop-up box like I did. So I'm just going to close that. All right. Oh. Skip geocaching. All right. So next is the main fields tab. So this is what's considered the quote unquote main information. So starting here, it's going to assume that the status that you want to enter in this listing is active. Okay, so that will stay there. But if you are entering in a listing as delayed, this is very important because if you happen to enter in a listing and you forgot to change this active to delayed and it generated that list number, you're like, oh, shoot, how do I change it to delayed? Once a listing is active, you cannot change it to delayed. You would have to expire that listing out and re-enter it in as delayed. So always remember that if you're doing a delayed listing, and I know sometimes it's hard because you're working off of muscle memory because you're typically entering in more active listings than you are delayed listing. Always remember to change this drop-down menu to delayed. After you change this to delayed, this is where you enter in your start showing date. Now you get out to 15 days maximum from the contract date. Okay? So if you do not change this date right here, it will expire out at midnight of this date. And this kind of happens a lot. So make sure that as soon as you change it, after delayed, you go to the calendar and then you choose your start showing date, whenever that is. All right. And it won't let you go past more than 15 days. All right. All right. So there we are with that. Next, enter in your list price, whatever your list price is, you would enter that in. No commas or decimals are needed. If there's available different postal municipalities for the address that you're entering in. So for example, there is an area in Racine County that's unincorporated called Wind Lake. I believe it's in the taxing municipality of Norway. So if this listing that I was entered in was in the taxing municipality of Norway, for postal municipality, I'm going to get a Wind Lake option. So your postal municipalities are based upon the address and zip code of your listing. And this list is generated from USPS. So there's no way that we can go in and change it. If you think that, I know the tax municipality is one thing, but I wanted to read another. If that option is not available to you, you cannot change it. Okay. All right. Next is if it's on a floodplain, you can choose yes or no, or partial or unknown. There's fields for your taxes and tax year. Now, this is a new addition, I will say in the last maybe month or so. There, you may have a address that may be subdivided and have different tax IDs or different parcel numbers. We do give you additional fields for that if that is what you need. So that's what these parcel 2, 3, and 4 fields are for, is if your address has, more than one tax key number to it. Lot description. If you want to put it in as wooded or on a corner or whatever, you can. Again, remember your red fields are required for entry. Your gray fields are not. If you need to zip through and enter in the listing and then you want to come in and add some stuff later, there's this little option that you have up here called show. All fields is the default. You've got choices to show you for the required fields only. So if I change it to that, it gets rid of all of those gray fields. And this way it only displays the fields that are required for entry on my listing. So they're all red. If you want to check your work to make sure that you've got everything filled in, that would be empty required fields only. So you see those fields that I had that were required that were filled in, they disappeared. So this is basically saying, hey, these are the empty fields that you still need to fill. And this works on all of the tabs through here, not just the tab on main fields. All right, I'm just going to switch it back to all fields there. All right. So again, it's much like filling out an application. If you've got the information, you just pop in what you need. Estimate acreage. So here, there's this little question here, the information. So when you're entering in the estimate acreage for the property, a decimal is required in this field. So if it's only 1 acre, you enter in 1.0. All right. Next is the source. Where did you get that information that it's 1 acre from? You can choose the drop down and select whatever choice applies. And then the little question mark here, basically just restating what you see in the drop down. All right. Zoning. You've got that. So is it residential? Is it a code? So whatever the zoning is, if it's a name, it can be text or it can be numeric in this field. The listing date and expiration date here, just a note, must match the term of the contract, and it's showing you from what lines on the contract here. Subagent commission, if it's a percentage or dollar amount, you enter that in here, and here you say, hey, that's for the dollar or the percentage amount. Buyer agent commission, is it the property broker owned? Any named prospects? Now, some of these fields, most of the fields we know down here in technical, but we don't know them all. Whenever you have a question about entry or what a field means, your best bet is to skip us and call directly to admin, because I don't know what named prospects mean, but they would be able to tell you upstairs. Okay. Electronic consent, this means that if your customer has consented to you communicating with them electronically in regards to forms and contracts, this is where you can say yes or no. Exclusive agency contract, the default is no. This means that if you were to set this to yes, that means your seller wants to keep that listing exclusive in FlexMLS. They do not want it broadcast out to all of the third-party sites. For example, maybe you are listing a home and a seller is like a celebrity, and so they don't want their home all over the internet. So basically, you're doing most of the footwork of advertising, but not putting it out on blast for the whole wide world stage to see. So the listing will only stay within FlexMLS and get emailed out to customers who have matching criteria. All right. Is there a variable commission? Is it limited unserviced? This default is no. What a limited unserviced listing is, I can explain it better by example. Let's say there are some brokerages in the area that basically, in layman's terms, they sell MLS numbers. So a seller would go to this brokerage and they pay a flat fee of like, $500 or whatever, just for that brokerage to put the listing into MLS. But that's basically where the broker stops. The seller is responsible for everything else as far as showing the property forms, everything else. The broker is just listing that listing into FlexMLS, and they don't do anything else. So whenever you see a listing that's marked yes for limited unserviced, more than likely that's what the case is. The seller is handling everything themselves. So there's going to be a reduced commission on that, most likely. If you've got information for the owner name, if you like to enter that in there, you could. If there's a property pin available and you want that in there, you can. Next, coming to the property information section, you can enter in the number of rooms in the home, total number of bedrooms, total number of full baths on the main level. So here in these fields, you do not use decimals. All right. So if there's 2 full baths on the main level, you put in the number 2. Maybe there's a total of 3 full baths in the home, but this is just for this level. Okay. How many half baths are on the main level? You would put that number there. If there's none, enter in 0. Next, the number of full baths on upper, half baths on upper, and same thing with the lower levels. If none of them apply, you don't have to enter in anything in these fields, because you can see it's shaded gray. Next, fields for the estimate year built in the source. Estimate total square footage. This should match what's on the tax record. If you have any question about, above ground, below ground, refer those questions to admin. There's no hard and fast rule for that, because there are no, across the state of Wisconsin, different municipalities calculate above and below ground square footage differently. So there's no, flat out consensus on one formula for doing that. My understanding that that's something that's currently in the works, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. Okay. There's fields if you want to enter in for estimate finish above and below ground. There's garage spaces, if it's attached, detached, or there's no garage. Next, for school and miscellaneous, you choose your school district. I'm just going to pop in one. So the school district is required. Neighborhood schools are not, but this is a related scroll. So for whatever school district that you chosen, they'll give you the related high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools for that school district. So it makes it a lot easier for that information to be entered in for you if you want to enter it in. Okay. Fields for information for subdivision and dues, if that applies. If it's on a specific body of water or near a body of water, you can enter that in. If there's any estimate waterfront footage and the source, you can enter that in. All right. Next is the directions showing in remarks field. So when you enter in directions, when you click in these fields, I just left clicked in this. This lets you know how many characters you have that you can enter in that field. So if you can't remember, you may have done this 100 times and maybe the 101st time, like, oh my God, how many characters can I enter in here? Just come in here and left click your mouse and it'll tell you. So 200 for directions, 120 for showing information, 800 for public remarks, 400 for private remarks. So just in case, public remarks are the text that's seen by the public. It should be strictly on the property and nothing else. No contact information, no names, no phone numbers, no web addresses, just on the property. Private remarks, these are remarks that are seen between the agents and brokers. So if there's something that you want just seen privately for other brokers and agents, you can enter that information in here. So this one's like not that many rules on it. If there's any inclusions or exclusions, what's being included with the sale of the property, what's being excluded. So 300 for inclusions and 300 for exclusions. And then here, this flyer headline. You may not want to enter this in right now, or you can always come back at a later date. But if you decide to create flyers for your listings, you can always come in here and add a headline for it to be pulled over into your flyer. All right. So this is the main fields tab. Remember that the red shaded fields are required for entry. The gray shaded fields are not. Do we have any questions? All right, I don't see any little hand icons here. Great. All right, so moving on, we'll go to the details tab. All right, so on details, you'll see these gray headings are optional information. The red headings, at least one detail in that section is required for entry. Type, though, is, even though it's not required, it's still, a lot of agents, I don't know too many agents who do not enter in anything in this, especially if your property is a hobby farm or water frontage on lot. A lot of people look for those things. So typically these things are filled in. You don't have to, but just kind of giving you a heads up there. Water features, if there's any water features for your property, you can choose that here. Lot descriptions, you've got that here. Style, this is required. So at least one entry in this section. So you choose what applies for your property. Next, for architecture, if it's a ranch or a bungalow or colonial, you'll choose that. Next section is about the garage. So does it have an electric door opener or access to the basement? So you've got options here. The driveway. So is it paved? Is it shared? An alley entrance? There's a section for outbuildings. The next section is required, exterior. So this is basically what is the main composition of this property? What is it made out of? Basement. What type of basement does the property have? Heating and fuel. Got options there. Your heating and cooling type. Bath description and terms is optional, but a lot of people will search for foreclosures or short sales or auctions. Those, a lot of people are always, oh, how do I find a short sale? How do I find it? So we do get calls here at the help desk asking how to search on those items. So if your property fits that, I would behoove you to mark it. Documents on file. So this basically means what documents do you have access to if you are asked for them. You don't necessarily have to load them to your listing. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. But if you are asked for a document, which ones do you have? So you want to select what documents that you have. Appliances included. Miscellaneous exterior, so if there's a deck or patio or horses allowed. Miscellaneous interior, these are your fireplaces, your pantries, your saunas, central vac, that kind of stuff. Water and waste, that's required, and municipality. Example, there is the county of Waukesha, and then there's a municipality of Waukesha. The municipality of Waukesha, there's both the city and a town of Waukesha. So if this applies to one of your, well, you have to fill it in. So whatever municipality it is, so if you happen to be in the town of Waukesha, you select that, or the city of Waukesha. Next is accessibility items. So if there's a bedroom on the main level or a full bath on the main level, you may want to select those because you have buyers that may be looking for homes where they have someone living with them that, you know, has physical disabilities that they may need a lot of things on that first level. So you can go in here and you can check these things. If any green features fit, we've got the information here that you can select. And hobby farms, which have boomed in popularity in the last 10 years, you can select that here. All right, so this is the details tab. Just a reminder that the red-headed sections, at least one detail is required for entry, and then the gray sections are optional. But it will definitely increase your search results if you've got something that fits in that section. Do we have any questions? All right, I don't see any hand icons, and we'll move on. Next is the Rooms tab. This is where you can enter in information regarding the rooms on the property. Before I get started with this, I don't know if you've noticed, like every once in a while you'll see this little saving would pop up. When you're adding a listing, there is an autosave feature. So if you happen to be working on a listing and it happens to a lot of you guys as you're entering and stuff, you're being interrupted with phone calls, maybe a meeting, maybe someone talking to you, you had to run to the bathroom, maybe you accidentally kicked the plug out of the wall with your foot, whatever, no mind. It will autosave your listing. So if something happens where if there's a power outage, and you're like, oh, shoot, I've entered in all this information. How am I going to go back and get it? It will save up to the point where it lasts autosave, and you can find them in your incomplete menu. And when we're done with this, I'll show you where the incomplete menu is because that is a part of the ad change. All right. So here, back to rooms. So here, 3 rooms are required. So the living and great room, the kitchen, and the master bedroom. So you choose what level that they're on and enter in the length and the width of each of those rooms. The other rooms that you have here are optional, but definitely a lot of people do enter in that information. And if there's something up here that doesn't apply to the additional rooms that you're adding, we've got 4 drop-down menus here that has other types of rooms in it, like a bonus room, a foyer, mud room, screen porch, second kitchen, all that good stuff. All right. Any questions on the Rooms tab? Okay, I don't see any hand icons here. All right. And then lastly is the Broker Distribution tab. Now, broker distribution is what allows the listing to go out to all of the third-party sites, the broker sites, Realtor.com, WIHomes.com. This should be selected by default. All MLS authorized public websites. So I always tell people when you're entering in a listing, before you add it, just, since you're going down the row of tabs anyway, just click on broker distribution and make sure what you want is selected. Now, if this is going to be a listing that you do not want published to the third-party sites, maybe it says celebrity, this is where you can exclude the opt-outs. If the seller opts out of it, this is where you can exclude that listing from going out to the public websites. All right. If your broker has Zillow syndication enabled in their office's administrative account, there will be another box down here that says Zillow distribution. Now, this has to be turned on in your broker's office's administrative account. So if you don't see that here, you're wondering, oh, why isn't my listing on Zillow? First, refer to your broker. and ask them, do you have Zillow turned on in the office's administrative account? If they have no clue as to what you're speaking about, have them call us here at the help desk and we can walk them through. We can explain it to them. If they decide that they want to turn it on, they can or not. It's an option. We've got a separate contract with Zillow and Trulia. So each broker has the option of if they want their listings out there or if they do not. Okay, so again, first go to your broker. If you're wondering why your listings aren't on Zillow, first go to your broker and ask them if you guys are syndicating the Zillow. And then if they have any questions, have them give us a call. All right. So once you've entered in all of your information here, and again, remember the show fields, you can always check, do this empty required fields, and then kind of go through your tabs and see what you may be missing that you need to put in. Okay, so once you've got all of your required fields added, to add a listing, I'm not going to add a listing because I'm not entering in anything real. To add a listing, you would click here on the add listing button. Once you click that button, a pop-up will come up here saying that your listing has been added, and it will give you the list number of that listing. It'll also give you some options if you want to continue on to the change menu where you can enter in your documents and your photos and stuff like that. Okay. You also have another option is to save as incomplete. Maybe you've gone through this and you realize that you need to gather some more information before you make the listing go live. Then you can save that listing as incomplete. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the incomplete listing has been saved. All right. So to access incomplete listings, it took us here to the incomplete menu here, but I'm just going to go in fresh. So let's say you went back out to you called the seller or you went back out to the property or whatever. So you came back and you're ready to finish that incomplete listing. So to access incomplete, you click on menu and then underneath add change, click on incomplete. So this is where your incomplete listing will be. And you see I've got quite a few here. So I'm going to use this one since this one looks like this might be kind of filled out. So you'd select the listing. Oops, let me move this. All right, so you'd select the listing. You may have a few of them here. And we don't do anything with these listings. If you've got a bunch of unfinished listings, they stay here. So you can remove them by using the remove button down here. So make sure you select the one that you want and then hit remove. It asks you, are you sure? You click OK. All right, so I'm going to finish this one right here on Conway Street. So I'm going to select it. Then I'm going to hit edit. All right. Now, before a listing goes live, if you'd like to add any media to that listing, like the photos, the documents, videos, or virtual tours, you most definitely can do that. And that's what a lot of agents do, because as soon as a listing is assigned a list number, it's available to everybody. It may take you even if you're fast, it may take you another 5 to 10 minutes to get your documents and your photos loaded to that listing. So a lot of agents will go through the process of saving a listing as incomplete, and then they'll come here and then they'll add their media. So if you'd like to add photos, and I'll show you how to do that, you click on photos. So this will take you to the photos menu. Now, the only requirements that we have for photos is that the file type is JPEG, the JPG file type. And that the main list photo, the one that's going to be pulled on the report, that first photo, the main list photo, is in standard landscape format. That's the photo that gets pulled onto all of the reports. So if that photo is in panoramic or portrait view, it's going to get distorted. So make sure that at least that main list photo is in standard landscape format. And you don't, the suggested file size for your photos is that they are no larger than 5 megabyte or MB in size. So I'm going to minimize my screen here and see if I've got some photos. So here we've got some photos saved. So if you're like, okay, well, what size is my photos? Way that you can do it, you can either single right click on the photo, and then when the menu comes up, left click on properties, and it'll tell you the size. There it is right there. Or in your folder here, you can change the view. So if you change your view by clicking here to details, this will show you the size of each of those photos. So you can kind of see what that is. All right, so let me bring my window back up. So if I wanted to add photos, I'm here in the listing. I'm going to click on Add Photos. So once this box comes up, this is where you point it to the location of where your photos are. So this is where you have to know where your photos are. Maybe you've got them on a thumb drive. Maybe you've loaded them to your OneDrive or your Dropbox or wherever it is. You use this box to point it to the location of where your photos are. So my photos were on a folder on my desktop. So I'm going to go to my desktop. So once my photos, there's my photos. So I'll double click that folder to open it up. Okay. And you can change your view while you're in here because you're thinking, okay, well, which one is which? I can't tell. That's what this little icon is. I don't know what it is on Mac, but on a Windows machine, this is where you can hit that and then change it to your icon so you can see what the photos are. Okay, so if I wanted to load all 7 of these photos at one time, I'm just going to single click on the first one, hold down my shift key on my keyboard, and then single click on my last one. All of them are selected, so when I hit open, they will all load at the same time. Now let me just click that. Or if you wanted to cherry pick, maybe there's only 4 of these you wanted to add. So you single click on your first one, hold down the control key, and then you pick through like that. So shift is from beginning to end. Control is cherry picking. All right. All right. So now I'll hit open. There's the photos that are loaded. So it'll load them in whatever order that you pull them in. So once you're here, you're thinking, okay, so it's going to make your first photo the main list photo. So the number 1 photo with the blue flag will always be the main list photo. If you go, well, I don't want the backyard to be the main list photo, easy way to change it. You can either A, grab the title bar of the photo that you want to replace it with, hold down your left mouse button and drag it over like that, and then make sure the blue flag is lit up because that has to be lit up to indicate that it's a primary image. That's one way that you can do it. Okay, let me slap it back over here so I can show you the second way to do it. So if you are drag and pull challenged, another way that you can do it is you can switch the number here. So if I wanted this to be the number 1 photo, I hit the drop down menu, select number 1, and it pops it over here. So make sure your main list photo is number 1 and has the blue primary flag on it. Okay. So if I wanted the bedroom to be 2, I can either drag it or I can go number 2. Kitchen, I'll make it number 3. Backyard, I'll leave that. So this is the way that you can do it. And you can always move these around. Okay. Other options that you can do here, if you've updated like from summer to winter or winter to summer and you want to get rid of one or whatever, you can select the photo with the checkbox and then hit delete selected if you don't want that photo anymore. Let me take that out. You can do multiples of those too. This little icon here is if you want to upload a replacement photo. So maybe you've got a better picture of the bedroom. When you hit this, you point it to that new photo you want to replace it with. All right. Maybe you've loaded a photo and it's sitting on its side or upside down. This is what these little spinning arrows are for. It will rotate the photo in the way that you need it to rotate. Like that. And then lastly, if you just want to get rid of it completely, that's what the trash can is for. Okay. So remember, and part of the video where you can upload an unlimited number of photos to the listing, but most of the third-party sites will only pull the first 25 photos. So make sure that your first 25 photos are the ones you want to be seen. When you email out a listing, whether it's by subscription or manual email, then all of the photos are available to whomever you've emailed it to. All right. And just to get out of this screen, you just click return to edit your listing. So that's adding photos. If you need to add documents, That's this link right here. Now, the only document that is required for entry on listing is your listing contract. And if you're doing a delayed listing, that seller's authorization form. Any other documents, we don't require for you to add them, but it does make life easier because if they're available in your listing, that's, less phone calls that you have to take. So with a document, and I'll use the contract since that's the one that's required. You want to scan the first, third, and last page of that contract. And if you're doing the delayed listing, make the seller's authorization the fourth page on there. Scan it on your scanner as a PDF file. Okay, it has to be a PDF file, the ones that open with Adobe. Maximum file size allowed for documents is 15 megabyte. Okay, and again, if you need to know the file size of a file, like I just showed you with the photos, go to where it's located, right click on the file, and left click on properties, and it'll tell you the size and properties. So to upload a file, we came into document. So here for document file, I want to load the contract. So I slide down and I select the listing contract. Now the listing contracts, those are private. So only the listing agent, the listing office, and us here at the MLS can see contracts. No one else can. All the rest of these are public documents. So once you select the type of document that you're loading, you use this choose file, or it might be browse, depending on the browser that you're using, button to point it to the location of where you've got that file saved. So I'm going to go back out to my desktop because I think that's where there it is right there. So that's my contract. I'm going to double left click it to select it. There it is. And I'm going to add it. There's your contract. So that's how you load a document, any document to your listing. First, you have to scan it as a PDF file. If you're doing a file that has a whole lot of pages, like condo docs I hear are really long, to make a file smaller, on your scanner, adjust the DPI to a really low setting that makes a smaller file for you, where you'll be able to load that in. All right, so I'm going to return to the edit listing screen. If you want to load a video to your listing, this is where you can load a video. Now, when you load a video, you have to use the embed link. Okay, so let me just pop on out to YouTube just to show you what an embed link is. All right, so let me just grab the Adventure Time video, and then all right, so we'll pretend like this is your video. Okay, so let's say you've loaded your video to YouTube or whatever site. It has to be hosted on another site. Okay, so you grab the video, you go to the site where your video is loaded. So we'll use YouTube as an example. So this is the video that you want to load. So in order to get that embed link, right underneath the video, you've got a share button. You click that, so it gives you these options here. This is your embed option. You left click on that option, and this is what embed links look like. They'll start with the little character, then iframe, then it'll give you all the rest of the stuff. So this is what an embed link looks like. So you'll swipe over it and right click and copy. All right, so I'm just going to close Adventure Time here. And then you come here to add video. You can give it a name if you want to. Then you paste that link in the first box. So right click, paste. All right, and then you come down here and you save your changes, and your video's there. So if I click here, there's a video. All right, so remember, videos have to be hosted on another site. You can't load the file itself. All right, last thing, for virtual tours, if you want to add a virtual tours, there's typically a third-party company such as CirclePix that does creates virtual tours. So when they create your virtual tour, they'll email you the link for that virtual tour. The virtual tour will start with the http:// whatever the address is. So they email you that link. You copy the link from your email, and then you paste it right here into this box. And if you want to add a description, you can. You click next, you're all set. So videos and virtual tours are hosted on other sites. You're just posting the link to your listing. Keep in mind that videos and virtual tours are allowed to be branded. All right. Okay, so we're back at this incomplete menu. So let's say you gathered other information that you need to add to your listing before it goes live. So we'll go into listing information, and this takes you back into the ad screen. So you just navigate to the tab that you need to go to add your information. Let me make sure all my fields are entered in. So I'm just typing in stuff. All right, let's go to detail. Just trying to finish this so I can show you what it looks like when a listing is added. Rooms, we'll make those all main and all 11. Weird shaped house. And then let me make sure that we're excluding this because I don't want this out on a public site. Let me just go here and make sure that I've got that other thing selected. Where are you? I've done this before, mistakenly went out. Okay, it looks like I'm good. All right, so once you've got everything filled in and you're ready for that listing to go live, now you can come to add listing. Oh, let me make sure that the expiration date so it expires out. I know it's going to give me an error if I do that. What is today's date? Today is the 5th, and we will expire this out on the 5th in case I forget to come back in here and do it. Let's see if it'll let me do that. All right, so now I'm going to hit add listing. Let me change it. So it's saying that, oh, your listing is in delayed status to start showing date. So 2015 is long gone. So let me switch this back to active. All right, now let's do add listing. So when those little errors pop up, make sure you read them carefully. Add listing. So once you hit add listing, this is what the screen will look like once a listing has been added. The listing has been added as, that's your list number. You can finish and return home. Or if you want to go in and view or print the listing report, this is an option if you want to make sure, send it to your seller and say, hey, check over everything and make sure that it looks good. You can also do this option in incomplete. Once you get everything added and saved, you can print or email the report and email it to your seller to make them so they can check it over to make sure everything's looking good. You can go to the change screen where we just came from. If you want to copy this listing and make it into another brand new listing, you can. For example, let's say you've got maybe 4 or 5 vacant land or condominium lots where the basic information is the same. You just have to make little changes. That's what this clone is really helpful for. Or if you've got another total brand new listing that you need to enter in that's not connected or any way similar to this, this will take you directly to add listing. All right, I'm just going to finish and return home. And it bumps us back out to the to the dashboard. So that was we covered add listing and we covered incomplete. Do we have any questions? All right, I don't see any hand icons. Those are the 2 biggest chunks. So let's say you needed to go in and change the listing. You needed to change the price or change the status or change the whatever. So when you go into menu, underneath add change, you've got change. So there's our listing that's right here. So when you click on it, and notice here it's showing you just your active listing. So if you're like, hey, where's my delayed listing or my pending listing? I don't see it. You can switch the status drop down here and show those listings. So if I do expired, it'll show all the expired listings that were under this account. So that's how you can switch that. All right. So I'm going to go into this listing that we just made active. So here, there we have it. So if you wanted to look at the full listing report, look at the photos on there, look at the documents, check any history, listing activity. So we just put it in the system, but listing activity will show you activity between the date range that you change it to. So how many times it's been looked at internally, how many times it's been emailed out automatically or manually, how many times it's been viewed in contact portals. This section is connected to the portal. So if it's been recommended by agents to their portal customers, it'll show you how many times, how many saved carts it's in a portal. How many times it's been hidden by a customer or hidden by an agent in the portal. I won't take up any more your time with this, but if you're interested in knowing what this looks like or how it works, I'm just going to switch back over here to our Metro site. Go to member support, FlexMLS manuals. The document that explains that is called listing activity. So this will show you how you can use that screen and how the definitions, how it's defined. Okay, listing activity. All right, pop back over here. Okay, let me just, and you can also print these or email it or set it up for an auto email to your seller if they're curious. All right, let's go hit back. Or you can change another listing. This will take you to the change screen like we just came from. So if you needed to, if you put in a bathroom wrong or something, you can go back into listing information. If you need to adjust the map location of the listing pin, that's map location. So let's say I wanted to, I'm just pulling the scroll wheel back on my mouse here. You can zoom in or out using this. So if I wanted to make the location, I'm just going to make it our office over here. So I'm just grabbing my mouse and I'm just sliding the map over to navigate where I want it to go. So this is us right here on the corner. So I'm going to hold down my left mouse button on the pen, pop it right there and say, use that location for my map. So if you need to adjust the map location, that's how you can do it. Status. If you need to edit the current status, maybe there's you want to change it from active to active with offer. This is where you'd go. So you go edit current status. So once you're here for contingent, and this is important, you click the drop down menu and you select with offer. And then you put in the active with offer date. I'm going to make it today's date. So this will put that yellow box with the red C next to the listing on the search results screen. So now this listing is active with offer. So if I pull up the listing, let me just open this up in a new tab to show you. There it is. That's active with offer. All right. If the deal falls through or you needed to go back regular active, you do the same thing but in the reverse. So you go back into edit current status, you hit contingent, take the with offer off so it's blank, take the check out of active with offer date and save it. And save. So now the contingency is gone. Okay. If you need to extend the expiration date or expire the listing out at midnight of a particular date, that's what extend or expire is for. So this will expire out on midnight of whatever date is selected. It's going to hit back. If you need to put the listing in pending status, you're not showing it anymore. You're just waiting for, to get a closing date to close. That's pinned listing. So you select your pin date. If you want to add any remarks to it, you can. Once you pinned a listing, it stops the clock for the expiration date. So the date, it can stay pending past its expiration date and it won't expire. It stays pending until you close it or do something else with it. All right, it's going to hit back. If you need to close out a listing, you sold it. You go to close listing. Here you put in the name of your selling member. So let's say I'm just going to type in the selling member's last name is Morris. It brings up everybody with the last name Morris, and then I just select whoever's selling it. If the selling member is not a member of our MLS, then you would use non-MLS. So I'll put in non-MLS. So if it was in the Kenosha area, Fond du Lac area, Metro area, I think that's Manitowoc, Marinette, Sheboygan, whatever. It really doesn't make a difference too much of which one you choose. Choose your sold date, your sold price, the terms of sale, Transaction type is optional. So anything that has a little red asterisk next to it, you need to complete. If it doesn't, you don't have to. If there's any concessions, basically what a concession is it was there some type of sweetener that has dollar value added to the deal in order for it to close. For example, the person buying the property says, you know what, if you throw in 2 years of a home warranty, we'll take it. So if a home warranty amounts to $3,000 for those 3 years, then you can say yes, and then you say the remarks, 2 years home warranty, $3,000. All right. And then the pending date. So once you enter in that information, you hit save, it is closed. As the video stated that we watched earlier, if you made a mistake, maybe you entered the wrong selling member or selling price, you have up to 10 days from that date that you closed it to go back and edit that information. If you missed that window, call our admin department. They'll be more than happy to help you correct that. All right. Just going to hit back here. If you need to withdraw a listing temporarily, all that rain that we've had in the past week or two, we've had a lot of withdrawals because there's been a lot of flooded basements. So we've had agents asking, my seller needs to get their basement cleaned up. We're not going to show it for a while. How do I do that? You can come in here, you withdraw your listing. Put in the withdrawal date and next. That's temporary. So once you're ready to put that listing back on the market, you would come into the menu here. There will be if it's within withdrawn status, there will be a back on market link here for you that you would choose to put it back on the market. Lastly is expire listing. If you needed to expire a listing immediately, you come here, you move the date to where you want it, and once you hit next, it is expired. All right. So that's the status section. Any questions on changing status? All right, I don't see any hand icons. We'll move on. If you need to change the list price, that's where you come in here and you can change your list price. It'll show you the current list price, and then you enter in your new list price and then click next to save it. We reviewed the media section while we were in the incomplete menu. Works the same way that it did here that it did there. Lastly, scheduled marketing activities. If you need to add an open house to your listing, you click on that, you go to add, you pop in the date for that open house, your start and showing time, start and end showing times. Any comments that you want to add, and then click next. And that's how you add an open house. There's one, if you're doing like an open house over a weekend, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have to do an entry for each date. So one for the 5th, one for the Friday, one for the Saturday, and one for the Sunday. All right, I'm just going to return to my edit listing screen. And then enable, disable showing time. By default, showing time is enabled in your account. So if you're not using showing time and you went in and disabled it, don't worry. But let's say, for instance, for a particular listing, you needed to do something different with this listing. Maybe it's a go and show because it's a vacant land, or you're disabling it. You want all the listing appointments to come to you and not be able to be scheduled online. This is where you can come into, click on this, and it'll take you into the showing time menu where you can go in and you can change the appointment types, if there's any showing restrictions, or if you want to turn off showing time on this listing. You want your showing instructions basically saying, call the listing agent to set up appointments. Maybe it's again, we're working with a celebrity, so you just don't want anybody, being able to schedule. You want to talk to them and get some information to make sure that it's extra secure for whatever reason. So that's what that menu's for. I'm just going to leave there. So this is the change menu, much like that incomplete menu, but you get all of the options here. Do we have any questions on the change menu? All right, no hand icons. The last item that I'm going to show you, is copy. If you need to copy a listing, let's say someone that had purchased a property from you maybe 9 months ago or whatever. They rehabbed it and they're putting it back on the market. So basically you want to copy the list number, but make it a brand new listing. So let me grab one of my expired list numbers here. All right, so we'll do this one. So I'm going to copy this list number. So when you copy a list number, the property types have to be the same. You can't copy a single family listing and turn it into a condo listing. They got to be the same. So I'll just paste that list number in here, and then I want to copy the photos. Make sure you check that so it'll copy any photos on here, and then you hit next. So basically when you copy a listing, it's a little bit different than when you had the clone option after you added a listing. Clone will duplicate every single field. Copy will only duplicate roughly 2/3 of the completed fields. So you want to make sure that you go through every tab, excuse me, and confirm the information that's on the tabs here. So like here, it didn't bring over the list price. You would have to enter that in new. So you just kind of scroll through and see what's there that you either need to complete or correct. Once you're done entering in that information, again, you have the option to save it as incomplete if you want to complete, add the photos and documents before you make it live, or you can go directly to add listing, and that'll generate a brand new list number for this copied listing. All right. Do we have any questions on anything that we have reviewed underneath Add Change? All right, I don't see any hand icons. So again, the video that we did play at the beginning, if you look in your go-to webinar control panel in the handout section, you will see that link for Intro to Listing Policy Final. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way that you can save that file, but remember, we do have it on our homepage, MetroMLS.com. Go to Member Support, FlexMLS Webinars, and it's this one right here, Introduction to Listing Policy. So if you ever have any questions on rules, policy, procedure, a couple of you guys might be having a debate in the office about what you can or what you can't do, definitely you can go there. We also, underneath Add Change, each section is its own webinar. So if you need something clarified or you forgot some things, you can always come here and review it. And, if you want to skip to a point a little bit further in the video, just drag that little indicator right on over. If you have any questions on anything else, please give us a call here at the help desk, 414-778-5450, or you can email us at support@metromls.com. Thank you guys so much for sharing a portion of your day with me, and so lots.